It's Friday, the 28th of June 2013. Good evening and welcome to KTN Prime Friday edition. I'm Eric Njoka. Day 4 of the nationwide teachers' strike. And the stalemate remains as the government and teachers both maintain their stand, even as a tussle moved to court. Also tonight, we are in South Africa, where United States President Barack Obama arrived for his tour of the country. These and many more stories coming up in our bulletin tonight. But first, the highlights.
When a strike has been declared illegal, what is the best thing to do? We don't pay you.
Costly protest. Teachers could lose their salary over strike. Safely home. Chinedu deportation saga detainees are back. Reaching out to Africa. Obama's tour takes him to South Africa. And in sports, Kenya gets off to a flying start in the 2013 Rugby Sevens World Cup. Welcome to the program. As the nationwide teachers' strike entered day 4, it looks like the stalemate is not about to end anytime soon, as the government announced that it will consider withholding the teachers' salaries if the court declares the strike illegal. The government moved to the industrial court today, seeking to stop the teachers from continuing with the strike. And as Najma Ismail reports, the outcome of the court case on the validity of the legal notice number 16 of 2003 will determine the way forward with regards to the strike.
The strike entered day 4, showing no signs of abating as the government maintained its stand on the 1997 legal notice being null and void. Education Cabinet Secretary Jacob Kaimenyi says they have implemented legal notice 16 to its final phase, but teachers think otherwise and have downed their tools.
In 2003, it was agreed that, in fact, we retained that requirement or that agreement. What is the status? This has been paid to the full.
On his part, Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi had this message for the teachers.
Have fulfilled our part of bargain. The teachers are changing the rules, and we have also changed the game.
This is the 7th nationwide teacher strike since 1997. For 16 years, the teachers have been demanding for payment of at least 47 billion shillings in allowances, which they claim was promised to them by the government.
They are beneficiaries of the legal notice number 2003, which basically phased out these allowances.
And as the teachers wait to know whether their strike is legal or not, come Monday next week, the government says there has never been any collective bargaining agreement and that the teachers should prove otherwise. The government, however, says that if the court rules in favor of the unions, then they will pay them their allowances. But if it goes against them, then...
If you have scored duty, if you refuse to teach, when a strike has been declared illegal, what is the best thing to do? We don't pay you.
The strike has disrupted learning in all government, primary and secondary schools. The clergy have now waded into the debate, calling on teachers to consider the well-being of children at the center of this stalemate.
Their profession is a gift from God, and it is given to them for the benefit and well-being of the others. The children have, I believe, the right to education, isn't it? Now, they are being punished.
Najma Ismail, KTN Prime.
And that story by Najma Ismail most definitely leads us to a big question tonight. And we ask you, do you think the government should withhold the teachers' salary? Send your responses beginning with a yes or a no and a brief comment to the number 8040. You can also tweet us at KTN Kenya or to me at Eric Njoka KTN. We will surely sample your views during this live newscast and give you the poll results at the tail end of this live newscast. Staying with the education sector, and the Cabinet Secretary Professor Jacob Kaimenyi says the ministry will provide laptops to public primary schools by November this year. This comes a day after the cabinet approved implementation of the laptop project for Standard 1 pupils joining public primary schools next year. Patrick Amimo now reports on the laptop project, whose funding is now guaranteed.
The subject of laptops for primary school children in public schools has attracted support and opposition in equal measure. Though pupils in some private primary schools frequently interact with laptops and desktops in school, the gadget might not be a priority in many public schools, where even some lack classrooms and are forced to learn under trees. Last evening, President Uhuru Kenyatta chaired a cabinet meeting which approved implementation of the laptop project for Standard 1 pupils joining public primary schools next year. The Cabinet Secretary for Education says the ministry is ready to roll out the project.
Come November, December this year, we shall deliver those devices to the schools, but with your support.
The laptop project will be implemented in 3 phases. The first phase will cost 15 billion shillings and will be implemented during the 2013-2014 financial year.
Issue of technical specifications, the prices. We will put this in the press, expression of interest, so that all people, whether local, regional, international, are given a chance, yes, to express their interest.
The cabinet move to approve the laptop project, which was one of the key promises of the Jubilee Manifesto, came a few hours after heated debate in the National Assembly, where lawmakers Jacob Midio and Ronald Tonui wanted to divert some of the funds meant for the laptop project to pay teachers and possibly end their strike, which has paralyzed learning in public schools. The amendments were defeated. While endorsing the laptop project, the cabinet observed that some of the project benefits will include improving learning in schools and generating job opportunities for the youth through local computer assembling under public-private partnerships. In addition, the government says 1.5 million new electrical connections in schools and neighborhoods will be realized. This will rejuvenate the development of the Jua Kali sector and spur industrial growth in rural and urban areas. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Still on government finances, and President Uhuru Kenyatta has signed into law the Appropriations Act 2013, authorizing appropriations of 815.6 billion shillings out of the consolidated fund to finance government expenditure for the year 2013-2014 financial year. Essentially, Uhuru has locked any reallocation of funds from the laptop project to finance the education sector to avert the ongoing teachers' strike. Teachers had proposed slashing the 53 billion shillings to be diverted into paying teachers' allowances. An attempt to amend the Appropriations Act 2013 flopped in the National Assembly yesterday. The amendment, sponsored by GEM Member of Parliament Jacob Midio, sought to redirect the laptop monies to increase the teachers' budgets. Director of Public Prosecution and Registrar of Political Parties Budgets, the President also signed the General Warrant Financial Year 2013-2014, authorizing the Cabinet Secretary National Treasury to issue from the consolidated fund specified sums of money allocated to various ministries and departments to meet the government's recurrent and development expenditures for the next financial year. To the Deputy President now, and William Ruto has lost ownership of the 100-acre parcel of land in Uasin Gishu County following a ruling by the High Court today. The court has further ordered the Deputy President to pay the complainant Adrian Muteshi 5 million shillings for trespassing on his land and denying him use of his property since 2008. The ruling made by High Court Judge Rose Ougo stated that Ruto failed to provide evidence that he purchased the land belonging to the complainant. Ruto had, through his lawyers, told the court that he purchased the land from a third party, Dorothy Yator, and that he himself had not directly been involved in the transactions. He therefore indicated that he was a victim of fraud. Muteshi, on the other hand, says that he was forcefully evicted during the 2007-2008 post-election violence and has since lived as an IDP. All the defendants, save for Dorothy Yator, have been ordered to meet the costs of the suit. United States President Barack Obama has arrived in South Africa this evening, to a country that is anxious over the health of its former president, Nelson Mandela. The state of the 94-year-old statesman, who is clinging to life in a Pretoria hospital, is expected to overshadow his visit. Our senior reporter, Asha Mwilu, is in South Africa and joins us for the latest. Asha, over to you.
Yeah, we're coming to you live from Pretoria City here in South Africa, outside the Medic Clinic Heart Hospital, where the anti-apartheid icon has been ailing for the last 22 days. He is spending his 22nd night here at the Medic Clinic Heart Hospital. A lot of South Africans have camped outside the hospital the whole day and throughout the night, singing and praying for their leader to get better. He has been ailing from acute lung infection, and we understand that the family has said that he is so far stable but still in critical condition. A lot of South Africans are showing compassion for their leader, and they're camping here on a Friday night trying to just give a message to Mandela and his family that they are supporting their leader. Well, I just have a few people here just to ask them a few questions about what they feel about their leader, Madiba. Good evening, sir. What's your name?
Ryan.
What does this mean to you? Why are you outside here today?
We're here to support our leader, Mr. Dr. Nelson Mandela, for everything he has done for this country, not only for this country, but the world as a whole. I think he was a very good leader. He's still a leader, and I think he has done a lot for this nation.
I can see your eyes are even tearing just talking about this topic. What does he mean to you?
I think words can't explain the way he means to us. He's done a lot for this nation, for the world as a whole. Mandela is a father, he's a leader, he's everything to us. And I would like to urge all people to continue praying for our leader, Dr. Nelson Mandela, to recover, because we still need him in this world.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mama, how are you?
Fine, and how are you?
I'm very okay. What is your name?
My name is Susan Sibalo.
Okay. Why are you outside here tonight?
We are here, we are supporting our icon, President Nelson Mandela.
And what does Mandela mean to you personally?
Mandela means a lot to the whole continent of Africa. He's the leader and the example he gave us. He showed us the example of forgiving. So he's an icon to us, and also to our children and our grandchildren.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. Well, as you can see there, that's not just the number of people camping outside here. There are a lot more across the country, gathering in churches, praying for their leader, Nelson Mandela. Today is also the day that American President Barack Obama has arrived in the country, and he is actually in Pretoria. It's still unclear whether he will be visiting the ailing Mandela, but officials say that he could not visit Mandela due to his situation and condition right now. We will be keeping track of Mandela's condition, of course, throughout the week and the weekend, just to give you live updates of what's happening on this end of the globe. I'm Asha Mwilu, back to you in studio.
Thank you very much. That is Asha Mwilu coming to you live from Pretoria, and she'll be giving us an update on what's happening in South Africa. So you better watch KTN. Staying with stories making headlines in South Africa, and as former president and apartheid hero Nelson Mandela continues to fight for his life at a Pretoria hospital, a court has granted an application brought by the Mandela family to exhume 3 of his children and 2 other relatives and rebury them in the family cemetery in Kunu, which is where the former leader wants to be buried. And as Sophia Wanuna reports, the exhumation and reburying of the remains of the 3 of Mandela's sons is threatening to split the family.
It has been 3 weeks since South Africa's first black president, Nelson Mandela, was hospitalized with a recurring lung infection, with reports indicating that he is in a critical condition.
We are here to join the world at large to offer our prayers.
As the world continues to pray for Mandela, a family dispute is now brewing over 3 of his dead sons. 2 years ago, Mandela, Mandela's grandson, is said to have exhumed the bodies of 3 of Mandela's sons, Makgado, Dembekile and Makaziwe, from Kunu and reburied them in Vezo, where 94-year-old Mandela was born. However, some members of the family have accused him of not consulting them. And now, Kunu's chief says he has granted permission to Mandela's daughter, Makaziwe Mandela, to exhume the 3 bodies from Mvezo village, where they are now buried, and return them to the initial burial site in Kunu. Nelson Mandela's late parents are also buried in Kunu. And as the vigil continues, Mandela's family has rubbished calls from some quarters that wants them to let Mandela go, saying that he's still responsive and that the end is not yet here for the man they fondly refer to as Tata. Sophia Wanuna, KTN.
From South to West Africa, and the 12 Kenyans who were held in Nigeria over the Anthony Chinedu deportation saga have arrived in Nairobi aboard their chartered plane nearly 3 weeks after being detained in Nigeria. The 12 Kenyans arrived at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport at around 4 a.m. this morning after a 5-hour flight from Lagos, where they were being held hostage. A statement from Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed confirmed the arrival of the 12, stating their release was a culmination of successful talks between the Kenyan government and the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Reports indicate that it took the personal intervention of Nigeria President Goodluck Jonathan to secure the release of the Kenyans after he waived the airport fees. The 12 arrived aboard the private chartered jet from the East Africa Safari Express airline that was equally grounded in Nigeria. Nigeria authorities claimed the jet and those on board had flouted laid-down procedures warranting the detention. Those who were stuck in Nigeria included 5 crew members and 7 government officials who escorted the deportees. Being a Friday, it's Case Files Friday. During the post-election violence back in 2007-2008, a police officer was captured on camera gunning down 2 demonstrators. The officer was arrested and arraigned before court despite all the evidence placing him at the scene of the killing. A trial judge has set Constable Edward Kirui free on a technicality. Case Files, the Kisumu protesters, will be coming your way immediately after this live broadcast. Here's a sneak preview of what's coming up tonight.
Piga Piga was speaking in Swahili. Piga Piga. And then the guy shot the first shot, which killed the first guy instantly.
The coverage of the situation might not be very objective. There has been editing here and there, which would seem to have been geared towards certain things.
Tulishindwa tuliposikia kesi hakukuwa na ushahidi ya kutosha.
Kama bado anaweza kukana, bado mtu anakataa. What can we say?
To matters security, and plans are underway to revamp the Highway Patrol Unit to curb rising cases of highway crime. Inspector General Police David Kemayo says more patrol cars will be deployed along the northern corridor to tackle the complaints of hijackings on long-distance transport vehicles. At the same time, Kemayo has warned corrupt officers and long-haul drivers of an impending crackdown at weighbridges. Kemayo lamented that he has faced opposition in attempting to redeploy officers attached to weighbridges, but promised to ensure the incessant congestion is contained. Kemayo was speaking in Mombasa at a stakeholders forum on efficient trade and facilitation at the port of Mombasa and along the northern corridor, where Transport Cabinet Secretary Michael Kamau also warned that corruption could paralyze the port.
As a National Police Service, we shall refund the Highway Patrol Unit to ensure that the entire northern corridor is adequately covered so that vehicles do not get hijacked along those highways. Though at times some of our drivers sometimes they collude and sometimes they also manage to stage the theft of some of the goods that they transport.
Now, the government is considering hiring more nurses to counter the growing number of admissions and deliveries in public hospitals. Health Cabinet Secretary James Macharia says the number of pregnant women seeking medical attention has skyrocketed following the introduction of free maternity health care, which has in turn put pressure on the government hospitals' workforce. Macharia lauded nurses for working under what he called difficult conditions and promised to look into their welfare. At the same time, Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar has said priority should be given to providing affordable healthcare for all. Omar, who said he was recently admitted for the first time in hospital, expressed shock at the bill he paid after only 5 days in admission, which he described as out of reach for the ordinary Kenyan. The pair were speaking at the Port Rights Hospital in Mombasa, where Macharia officially commissioned the new electronic medical records EMR software, which will be rolled out to 800 medical facilities countrywide.
They mentioned to me that there have been an upsurge in terms of deliveries because of the free maternity service. And sometimes you have one nurse actually looking after 40 of the patients. It's a calling. And unless we know it's a calling, we shall not turn a blind ear to you. Because indeed, you are human. You are human, and you can only be stretched so far.
I have never been admitted to hospital in my 37 years. I was admitted for the first time 2 weeks ago at the Nairobi hospital, and it was a life-changing experience. But what surprised me most was the day I had to sign my bill. I think we need to make healthcare affordable. We need to make healthcare of high quality and accessible to every Kenyan.
Still on matters health, First Lady Margaret Kenyatta has called upon individuals and corporate institutions to support the treatment of women affected by fistula. Speaking at the Kenyatta National Hospital when she launched the 8th National Free Fistula Annual Medical Camp, the First Lady cited vaginal fistula as the most common type of fistula in the country. Catherine Omwanto with the details.
34-year-old Judith Luta has lived with fistula for 9 years after the birth of her last born. On Obstetric Fistula Awareness Day, KTN aired her story. She was just about to go in for surgery at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. It was her first long-distance trip in almost a decade. For 9 years, she had confined herself to her 2-room house. In here, she didn't have to explain to anyone why she smelt of urine or deal with unforgiving stares.
Mpaka mimi mwenyewe narudi najiuliza, na hii ugonjwa ilitokea wapi yenye nafanya mume wangu amekata kuwa karibu na mimi ngali.
Sadly, Judith's story may not have a happy ending. When doctors at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital examined Judith, they found that she had developed cancer from the constant infections. Obstetric fistula is believed to affect 3,000 women a year. Only 1,000 of these cases are reported and treated either at Kenyatta National Hospital or Moi Referral. The condition affects mostly women. Today, the First Lady, Margaret Kenyatta, got to hear from women who have suffered from fistula and are now repaired.
Sisters wakisema endeni mkaoge. Mimi naoga nikitoka huko maji tu inatoka. Nikikunywa chai maji inatoka. Nikashindwa nini?
There is a hope that the free maternal health care program will encourage women to give birth in hospitals and health centers. This way they can be treated for obstetric fistula immediately it occurs, so that there are no more women like Judith who have been sentenced to death by a treatable condition. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Women account for 30% of small and growing businesses in emerging markets, but they have had to make do with little or no funding as financial institutions shunned them for over the years. Women were perceived to lack the ambition and drive to establish a thriving business. But this is slowly changing as the financiers realize the potential that women-led businesses have. Adelaide Changole has more.
The entrepreneurship sector is tough, but it is even tougher for female entrepreneurs who make up more than 30% of small and growing businesses in emerging markets. These women-led businesses tend to be smaller and grow slower than those of their male counterparts, who are perceived as being more ambitious.
The ambition is not really for world domination when it comes to running a business. They're really just thinking about how can I provide food and shelter and pay my children school fees and see them off to the next level.
The traditional roles that women play at home has also ensured they lack the expansive networks and reliable mentors needed to craft proper strategies to grow their businesses.
Women generally tend to have significant challenges accessing finance. They also have challenges in terms of visioning out their businesses. So they're not as ambitious as their male counterparts, or it doesn't appear that they're as ambitious as their male counterparts. And they also have smaller networks.
But even with these challenges, women-led businesses still last longer and tend to be more successful than male-led businesses. Moreover, the money invested trickles down to the family and uplifts entire communities. This fact has changed the thinking of financiers who are now applying a gender lens when investing.
They're adopting a gender lens where they try and make sure a certain quota of the businesses that they're investing in are women-led.
Uplifting women-led businesses would boost the entire sector, provide significant employment opportunities, and give the economy added impetus. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business Today.
Now, you might want to hold off on your tea addiction, especially if you take it with milk, as prices continue to rise. The price of half a litre packet of almost all the popular brands went up from 35 to 40 shillings, hitting low-income households between the eyes. A 500 milliliter packet of fresh milk brands including Ilara, KCC, Daima and Molo Milk went up by 5 shillings in almost all outlets in Nairobi's Eastlands area. Interestingly, industry regulator, the Kenya Dairy Board, appears to be in the dark concerning these hikes in retail prices, only promising to provide more details on the matter at a later date. Farmers acknowledge that while the ongoing cold and dry spell in most parts of the country has affected supply of the farm level, current price adjustments at the retail shops is unjustifiably high. Key processors in the milk business have in the past indicated plans to increase capacity to turn milk into power to take care of erratic supply during dry spells. Move on to another story here. Inflation in the month of June has risen to 4.9% compared to the 4.1% recorded in May. The marginal increase in inflation was driven by a rise in food prices during the month, further impeding the purchasing power of most citizens. Inflation, however, remains within the government's 5% target, but with a proposal to impose a 16% VAT on basic commodities, food prices could spike even further. The Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee is scheduled to meet on July 9th with analysts calling for the MPC to hold the CBR steady. Over the past 1.5 years, the bank's top priority has been to control inflation and keep a lead on exchange rate volatility. Now, in a business community where leveraging on emerging technologies is prime for business development, search engine Google has come up with voice-enabled navigation maps to help small and large-scale business entities maximize on exposure. KTN's Joy Doreen Bira has more.
Location and accessibility are some of the factors to consider when opening up any business, and with the evolution of online access to information, search engines are now making it even easier for businesses to have presence online and giving voice-enabled direction to prospect customers.
Suspended Football Kenya Federation Vice Chairman Sami Sholei, Nairobi Branch Chairman Dan Shikanda and Tom Onyango will continue serving their suspension after the Federation's annual general meeting failed to lift their suspensions. Sholei and Shikanda were asked to withdraw the court case they had filed against the Federation before they could be pardoned. Alila, who apologized, was asked to account for the money he is alleged to have misappropriated, while the Coast Branch officials were accepted back to their positions. FKF's AGM was held at the Kenya School of Monetary Studies today.
Huko nafikiri mipango zile zilikuwa zimewekwa huko ni mipango zile zilikuwa zimeshahamuliwa mapema na yule bwana Moni ambaye pia ni lawyer wa Nyamoya, yeye ndio ameshikilia ushukani kule, yeye ndiye anauliza maswali. Wajua, ikiwa mtu atakuwa kila mara na kuuliza useme yes ama no, hiyo inamaanisha kuwa haujaambiwa uje ujitetee. Umeambiwa ukuje ukubali makosa yako ufungwe.
They think I have served enough
suspension, and therefore looks like I've already been relieved of any suspension.
If you're calling me to ask me, tell this AGM, did you go to court, yes or no? I did not go to court. We never went to court. We had initiated a process of going to court to stop the AGM, but when we sat with Nyamweya that night before the AGM, we stopped everything.
Mr. Shole admitted they had gone to court, but he thought that what he was doing was right, but he realizes that what he was doing was wrong, and eventually he says he had given instructions for the case not to go on, but his lawyers still went ahead and continued with the case. Dr. Shikanda said he never went to court, he never instructed anybody, and he was surprised to see documents, court documents, in his presence today.
Now, Premier League defending champions Tusker FC have a chance of closing on Sofapaka and Ulinzi Stars should they win their home match against the 2009 winners Sofapaka at the Nyayo Stadium. Victory for the title holders will pile the pressure on Gor Mahia, who play host to Bandari on Sunday at the City Stadium. Western Steamer opens Saturday's fixtures with a clash against Western Steamer at 2 p.m. at the Nyayo National Stadium. City Stars, whose coach left the club last week, entertains Mathare United at the Hope Centre in Kawangware. Debutants Homeboys will be away to Sony Sugar in a battle of bottom teams as 8th placed Chemelil Sugar host Muhoroni in an all-sugar millers clash.